Hey friends, so much to talk about today, man. We just got done with the World Cup spectacle. What a celebration that was. But the only spectacle that's even more crazy than that is the U.S. Senate race in the state of Maine. Oh my goodness. We're going to talk about that dumpster fire in a little bit. Also, we're going to talk about religious liberty being trampled in Europe and the UK, which should be concerning to all of us because when you don't allow a Finnish grandmother politician to even set foot in Heathrow Airport because she believes in a biblical view of sexuality. I mean, we got some problems. We're going to talk about the president's speech to the nation that all the mainstream media, except for a couple outlets, decided we didn't have a right to listen to ourselves and to make our own conclusions. That's a trampling of liberty in America that we should be concerned about. We're going to talk about the SAVE Act and whether or not that's going to get passed and how important is election integrity. Most of America thinks it's important, but the Democrats still don't. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then the abortion drug that is still being pushed or allowed to be pushed through this administration and what can be done to shut off the spigot of what has become more abortions in America than ever before, which is an incredible tragedy. We're going to talk about that, all of that in our podcast today.
Hey, welcome to the Ron Johnson Discipleship Podcast.
I was going to get a soccer ball today and try to bounce it off my head and then headbutt it over to you. But the way my hip's been going, I figured I could be in the hospital if I tried to do something like that. So, but I'm not going to do it. But hey, I'm glad you guys are tuning in today. Of course, the whole world, except for most Americans, was watching the World Cup.
See, this is how pro-American I am. I didn't watch a second of the World Cup.
Well, you were following the U.S. team, though, to the final, Sweet 16?
Only because it's a U.S. team. There was a controversy of one player tried to get banned, then we tried to get reversed or whatever. I don't really know anything.
Yeah.
I can't name
do
one
remember
player.
that. It's a distant memory.
Yeah.
Of course, Spain was facing off against Argentina, the famed Lionel Messi. And I always love watching that guy just touch the soccer ball. Now, I'm not a soccer guy. I married a soccer woman. My wife grew up in Ohio. They all played soccer. I got that straightened out in our prenuptial agreement that that we were not going to be doing soccer. But I will admit that I have been sucked into the kind of global hysteria of the moment and the all that comes with it. Although it wasn't okay. So Matthew, well, first of all, let me say there was history making in the Johnson family. I actually watched the entire final game from beginning to end.
Sure.
And Matthew and I were just talking here. It was very exciting, even though it was incredibly, as almost all soccer matches are. If they would just shrink the field, there'd be more scoring. It just drives me crazy that I actually spent over an hour just waiting for someone to score. That's wrong. I don't care what sport it is, but it was exciting. And how about the halftime extravaganza? I'm telling, and of course I'm not big on pop culture, but I'm like, that lady looks like Madonna. Why is Madonna leading the halftime celebration? She's got to be 90 years old. I looked it up. She's not. She's almost 80, but nevertheless, no, almost 70. Anyway, I can't. But anyway, I'm like, are you kidding me? Were you shocked by some of the choice? Okay. Anyway, I guess that's the world and all that. And
1.8 billion people watched it.
1.8 billion.
Kidding.
Anyway,
Super Bowl can't touch that.
No peer pressure for you. You just said, I'm not watching it. I don't care if 1.8 billion people
The
are
only reason I knew Spanish won is because one of the guys I follow on X posted something about that. That's how That's how pro-American I am. I don't know much about soccer at all.
Well, it was good. It was quite the spectacle.
Yeah.
Although I just want to say it was upstaged in spectacleness, whatever that is. It was upstaged by an event that happened in Maine. All right. It was the Maine Senate candidate debate on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
And there was more spectacle there than in the entire halftime of the soccer event here. We had a lady by the name of Ashley. Now, by the way, this is not for local dog catcher. This is not even for state senator, which is a, significant role. This is for the U.S. Senate. They had a list of candidates up there. Every one of them was absolutely bizarre, disqualified in their own unique way.
This is a debate to replace Pratt's seat.
who
the Democratic
again,
candidate.
This was a guy that had a rap sheet a mile long, and the
Right.
Democrats still supported him.
Yep.
And I might add, they're running against a Republican Senator, Collins, who is, for all practical purposes, a Democrat. She's terrible.
Yep.
So I don't know what happened to the great state of Maine, but it is an absolute train wreck. This lady, Ashley, is actually a guy. It looks like he weighs over 300 pounds. He's a big guy in a flowered dress. His forearms are bigger than my forearms. Anyway, this is a confused person. They asked the question, what are your credentials? Like, what makes you a great U.S. senator? He said being well-rounded. He writes music and sings songs and writes books. Now, someone did some research on what those books are and what that music is, and let's just say it's not all that impressive. But my point is, I mean, and again, he's embracing, as they all are, all the crazy stuff. Thinks ICE is evil, open borders. Thinks he's a woman. All the typical Democratic things. But, I mean, I'm watching this going, we just came off of the celebration of our 250th anniversary as a nation. I'm reading all this amazing American history and the sacrifices and the, everything everybody went through to secure this great republic. And I'm looking at this absolute freak show in Maine going, this has to be a Saturday Night Live skit. Because this is unbelievable. You could not have put this together. Like, where's Chris Farley? Put him up there as well. I mean, it's unbelievable. And at the same time, I'm like going, you got to be kidding me. This is such a disgrace to America that this is what politics looks like in the state of Maine. But it's becoming more and more common. But to say all of that, we're seeing an incredible shift within the Democratic Party that we've talked about. Highlight a couple of those big shifts, because I think, while we're seeing some wins here and there of these kind of radical socialists / communists, I think it's going to be short-lived, because I don't think America as a nation is buying any of it. A couple cases in point. Bill Maher. What's happening with Bill Maher?
Yeah, I mean, in the interview, Bill says he is open to vote for J.D. Vance for 2028.
Yeah, he made it clear Trump's off.
Yeah,
of course, he's not going to
vote for Trump.
Trump anyway, because Trump's not going to be running.
So
but
he said his 2020 vote's in play. And his biggest gripe against the Democrat parties is he just feels like they are veering towards communism. Now, they guise it in socialism.
Right, but everybody knows. Everybody knows where they're headed. In fact, this was not in any of our notes for today, but I just saw where some, strategizing session notes have been released where they're talking about doing away with the presidency and doing away with the Senate and the Supreme Court, these leftists, that they want to totally reconfigure American government. I mean, this is some serious wacko crazy stuff, but this is what they're actually talking about in the Democratic Party. So Maher says enough. And then another one that I was incredibly surprised about, which is John Fetterman. When Fetterman first got elected, I thought, again, what's this guy with the sweatpants and the hoodie doing?
Right.
I mean, what a joke. But he's got more brains than most of the Democrats right now. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, his whole thing is if the Democrat Party describes Israel as, apartheid, genocidal, then he's out as a Democrat Party. So just that blank labeling of Israel for him. But also, he's big against another shutdown. He doesn't want another shutdown. So it's interesting with Fetterman.
Because just to back up, so the strategy the Democrats are already talking about is another government shutdown, which again just completely throws a monkey wrench in the whole system of how our government was meant to operate.
Well, it's holding to attack Trump. They're holding the United States people as hostage. Yeah, and that's their strategy. And because they got to blame somebody, and they're going to blame Trump, so. As long as they win, they don't care who suffer. That's the idea. It's kind
of like the left's, and it's Marxism, famous line for Marxism. But basically, you're going to burn the system down, destroy everything, make it so it doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. Because it's always for the greater good, right? Yeah, we're going to make you guys suffer right now, but we're really being selfless people, and we're doing this for the greater good. It's a bunch of baloney. But
I mean, it kind of low information voters. People who don't think through things and say, hey, what's actually going on? Which, guess what? I feel like most of America is kind of low information voters.
Which is
look
sad.
at what's going on in Maine right now, the whole Northeast.
Yeah, that's
you know?
unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
But back to Fetterman, it's interesting because his approval rate among Democrats is so low right now. His approval rate among Republicans in Pennsylvania is actually really high. So to me, in 2028, when he's running again, when he goes to the primary, Democratic primary in 2027, he's going to lose that primary unless he switches party. He's going to win as a Republican. He's going to lose as a Democrat in 2028.
Well, and again, it's sad to think that because he made the comment himself. He goes, my views haven't changed. I just can't. My party's left me. I don't know how he could function within the Republican Party with the views that led him into Senate in the first place. So he's going to kind of be a man without a country unless he does some soul searching, I guess.
Well, it's going to be interesting because, again, like for all those people who says the Democratic Party hasn't drifted to like La La Land, I mean, these are little calipers in place. Bill Maher, Fetterman, Alan Dershowitz, James Carville. I mean, again, like these are people who have, they have at least stayed consistent with their stance. Again, they haven't gotten more conservative. They just kind of held their views for a long time.
They just realized, man.
And the whole spectrum of the Democratic Party has shifted so that they are now considered more centralist or Republicans. So it just affirms what we've been saying, which is like the leftists go further
Mario
left.
Cuomo, some of those folks too are realizing, we're losing our party. That no one's going to vote for you kind of thing. So like you said, these are major players. It also is a sign, though, that most Democrats are fed up with a lot of the people that have been leading them for like decades. The Schumers, the Pelosi's, the Cuomos. It's like they're looking for change. And, of course, the change that they're getting is not conservatism or republicanism in general. It's Marxism, which is not so much a good change.
Well, these party leaders have a hard time reining in these new up-and-coming Marxists or communists or socialists because they bring the energy. They're the charismatic one. They're the one who speaks out. They're the one who can get people out because, Marxism, again, of course, look at all the damage done, but Marxism has always energized people. It presents a very, very powerful worldview that people are not energized by the modern Democrat Party. They're energized by burning everything down. They don't have to build anything up, but they're energized by burning everything down.
We've talked about this when government is your God. You want, government provides all the answers, government cares for people, government program this, government program that. I mean, that is the exciting vision of a brand new savior, which isn't really a new savior at all. It's an old savior that's failed many, many times.
Well, you talk about Democrats that has no messaging. The messaging they do have that resonate with voter is communistic message. I mean, the communistic message has resonated with people for thousands of years.
Sure.
It always has. It taps on something about the human nature. Whereas the free enterprise, the democratic republic, the message of self-government doesn't resonate as much because that takes a lot more work.
The arduous apprenticeship of liberty that de Tocqueville talked about.
Very difficult.
Freedom is a great thing, but it's scary for a lot of people because you can't blame anybody else. It's opportunity that you have. Now, what are you going to do with it?
Absolutely.
And people would rather be cared for by some government bureaucracy, even though it means less opportunity, less real freedom, less money. It's that allurement of safety, that Big Brother is going to care for me. Of course, Big Brother doesn't do a very good job.
Well, the modern Democrats who are like the Schumers, they're stuck in the middle. They're between the socialists and they're kind of like this half freak enterprise, but half socialistic. And no one cares. No one cares about lukewarm. No one cares about lukewarm, and they're dying out, and they're catering to the socialist.
They're certainly not making a compelling vision for free enterprise and for the blessing that we have, which leads me to another incredibly disturbing news article here. We've been following this Finnish parliament member, Pavi Räsänen. I guess I'm not doing a good job pronouncing her name. But anyway, she's been going literally through hell because she actually chose to write a pamphlet expressing a biblical view of sexuality and condemning homosexual behavior as the scriptures do. She's a Lutheran. She was speaking within the context of her Lutheran faith, and she has been fighting for her freedom and her political freedom and religious freedom because she came under the charge of hate speech for authoring this pamphlet. And she was sentenced to a 1,800-pound fine. I don't know in European pounds what that is in dollars. the decision also ordered that the pamphlet be removed from public access. So they've completely censored a biblical view of sexuality. And all the physical copies be destroyed. This sounds like Nazi Germany. She was found guilty for 2 other charges based on a social media post and a radio debate. So what recently happened, and this is stunning to me, she was banned by the UK from traveling to Heathrow Airport for a planned layover due to her Finnish Supreme Court conviction in March for authoring a pamphlet containing supposed hate speech toward those who identify as LGBT. So they are not going to let her land in the airport because, as it says later in here, she is actually a threat to the common good. Now, let's talk about this for a moment. Europe is aflame right now with Islamic tensions, right, and all kinds of things going on in the streets, violence. We just saw these rape gangs that violated how many, 2,500 girls or 25,000. I don't forget how many. It was crazy number of people, and this Finnish grandma, who simply is quoting Bible verses, is now deemed a threat to the common good. Now we can bring up all kinds of things. We've been trumpeting this for 20 years earlier at Living Stones that hate speech is a violation of religious liberty because it punishes people for their supposed motive behind what they're saying. Is completely subjective, and it can be used to trample religious liberties, as we're seeing here. So if I ask you a question, Andrew, how do we determine what is the common good? How do you define common good in a place where you don't believe in transcendent truth? This would be kind of a squishy term to define, and yet here they find themselves coming up with these arbitrary, ridiculous charges. It says, she recently revealed that because of this single, not particularly serious charge, the UK has rejected her ETA, which is electronic travel authorization. So now we got the government saying who can go through airports, who can travel, all this kind of thing. Interestingly enough, she's traveling to a conference on Northern Ireland next month to speak on the topic of freedom of speech, and here they are absolutely trampling her freedom of speech.
I mean, the tactics we've seen during COVID, we've seen during the election integrity is we got to silence you hard and quickly. We got to send a message, right? If we give you a glimmer of hope. So it's an intricate thing because you push really hard, then the people rebel. You don't push hard enough, she'll keep doing it, and then people will hear. So it's at moments like this you just recognize like people need to speak up even more. They need to engage even more because they start throwing those people in jail. People just get even more fired up because truth comes out, right? Truth will always prevail.
Yep.
And I don't care whatever people's bias. At the end of the day, history going to look back and says that is a violation of their conscience. But their technique, the style, we've seen this over and over again with globalists, is when someone says something that will cause you trouble, you silence as hard, as quickly as you can, and you hope that silence everyone else. You use fear so that no one else will speak up again because they don't want to deal with that hassle. Right.
That's right. So like you said, boom, come down hard.
Yep.
And then you cross your fingers and hope that there's not anybody in the country with enough courage to say this is wrong. But I think it only takes a matter of time. Like right now, I think in the UK, they're arresting something like 30 people a day, believe it or not, for social media violations and free speech violations. Of course, they call it hate speech. It only takes a matter before that group of people who are being treated that way while our Islamic folks are allowed to do what they do, with nobody standing up, standing against that. We're seeing these ripple effects of these populist movements across Europe where people are going, you know what, we're not putting up with this. We're not going to let you destroy our country or our culture, and we're not going to let you trample our liberties. As you point out, the only thing that allows the wickedness to continue to perpetuate is the silence of good people who just refuse to open their mouths and stand against it. Now let's talk a little bit closer to home because we're not seeing that happen in America. Thank God we have a First Amendment. And again, which makes America exceptional. But we're seeing some crazy stuff that's never happened in the history of America when a sitting president elected by the majority of people in America, and a good majority, is being basically censored from our major news, mainstream media outlets. I think half of them completely censored it. Some of them put it on some obscure streaming platform that nobody even knows about. And then some, this is what I appreciate, is when the talking heads, the elites, want to listen to the message for us and kind of interpret what the president's really saying. But bottom line is, most of the major news outlets completely shut down the president's ability to communicate with the people of America, which is stunning that they would feel the boldness to do that. Your take on that and what the president was talking about in that message, why it was important?
Well, there's a lot to that. I mean, I'm not surprised. I think it's NBC and CBS, among some others, who are not carrying that.
ABC, NBC, CNN.
No one watches CNN anymore.
but what the president pointed out, though, is there's like tax support for these networks, right? I mean, they're not completely private, and so they have a responsibility to air a president's message. They've done this with Biden. They did this with Obama. They've done this all throughout history, except for President Trump.
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole purpose of Trump going on Twitter and going to social media is to bypass the traditional legacy news network. So I think I get why they're doing it. My point is, like, it has less and less impact because most people are not going to major news network to get their news anymore. They're going through social media. Now, in terms of the content, I mean, Trump shared quite a bit of alarming issues with election integrity. Which,
the first one being China's compromise of voter data. Evidently, they have proof 220 million voter files were messed with. That right there is a significant thing, and others have gone into more detail in terms of...
Yeah, he declassified a bunch of things that anyone can go and look at, which is helpful because, you know, Trump is not going to sit there and go through statistic by statistic. But
it's transparency. And the media now should actually do their job and look at all those documents and investigate, and I hope they would be as concerned as anybody about, in this situation, as Trump pointed out, China was actually working to get him unelected on his second term and to attack his presidency, which is some serious stuff. Secondly was this intelligence community cover-up, that the intelligence community knew about it and did not happen to go to our president or to Congress with the information, which again points to the whole deep state situation, which is deeply concerning. When you have members of these governmental agencies who are actually working against a duly elected president and his cabinet, and we're still uprooting a lot of that stuff right now, which is concerning, the whole deep state issue. It says here, disruption of the 2019 midterms, the 2020 election, alleged CIA involvement in turning business leaders against the president, alleged bribery of journalists. Evidently, they were looking for journalists who were writing bad articles against the president and offering them large sums of money to continue that practice. I mean, these are serious things. Alleged FBI record concerning ballot forgery. CIA, DOJ have been directed to investigate. So again, none of this is proven yet. These are allegations, but basically Trump's saying, look into it. We've got, we're having formal investigations into all these things. Talked about voting infrastructure vulnerabilities, which again, all this electronic voting. Oh no, the machines are fine. There's no problem with the machines, and we're finding out no, there's lots of problems with the machines. And we have here Russia, North Korea, China, three of the possible actors, along with Venezuela's government, using voting machines to digitally manipulate the 2020 count in a way that was immune to audit detection. So lots of messing with the actual infrastructure of our voting integrity. And then lastly here, Michigan's voter registration fraud. So it says here FBI documents are alleged to show manipulation of Michigan's voter rolls, including an agent allegedly signing or falsifying registration forms, ballots tied to non-existent people, a gift card vote buying scheme. And again, none of these things, there's been nobody go to jail, and none of these things have been the perpetrators have been brought to justice. So a lot going on right there. But bottom line is Trump used this speech to put an exclamation point on the Save America Act. Bring us up to speed on that.
Yeah, the last I check is they're not going to get 60 votes. There's no way they're going to get 60 votes. They barely even get all Republicans on the Save. I'm talking about Senate. It's passed in the House a couple times already, which credit to Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
But they're trying to pass through the reconciliation package, which is you don't need 60 votes. You just need 50 plus J.D. Vance. The issue with that is in order to be part of the reconciliation package, it needs to be budgetary, which is it budgetary or not depends on a parliamentarian. I think it's a lady who is unelected, who through the Senate rules gets to make recommendation whether it's budgetary or not. And right now they're going through that battle. And again, I was told, I heard that Speaker Thune or Leader Thune can just ignore her. But again, even that,
Right, you don't want to set bad precedents. The whole purpose of a parliamentarian obviously is to keep both sides honest and try to stick to the rules. But even the parliamentarian should have to justify the basis for their ruling, right? It can't just be, well, I'm the parliamentarian.
It's just really confusing right now to follow the rules because there's Supreme Court decisions. You're just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like I think most people kind of have a BS meter, kind of like, does this kind of make sense or does it kind of not make sense, right? And I just feel like right now things are so off kilter. It really is power. It's about fighting for that power.
Well, and we used to always look for policy, they would cross the aisle, right? They would cause both sides to come together. So you're trying to find those issues where there's lots of common ground. Even CNN has pointed out that America, including Black America, however you want to slice the American, whatever adjective you want to put in front of them, are overwhelmingly for secure
voter
elections,
ID,
voter ID. And I thought this was hilarious because you might have seen this, but people have pointed out that Olive Garden's never-ending pasta pass for 2026 requires a valid ID. And it's a big deal because there are 10,000 of these passes nationwide. So Olive Garden actually has a stronger election integrity system for their pasta pass than America does right now. And President Trump was pointing out the fact that these disclosures that he revealed show an election system so broken, so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It's indefensible. He said there's hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people listed on active voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. He also mentioned the fact that California's corrupt, process of the ballot count going for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I guess I ask you this question. If this is a bipartisan no-brainer, every American should be concerned and every elected official should be concerned about the integrity of our election, why do we have an entire party that is just fighting this tooth and nail, including going against many of their own constituents who are for it?
Yeah, because it's about power. It's about power. Now, I think there's some provision in the SAVE Act that also talks about mail-in ballot, and there's some controversies. And I don't get mail. I mean, I get it, but I don't. I think people who are able to should be able. I mean, if you're overseas, I get it. But if you're like, you should go into a voting booth and vote. That's standing of voting. Mail-in ballot kind of changed
because it is an integrity issue, and you care about integrity. So you know that the mail-in ballots can be manipulated,
harvested.
And so because we care about that, let's not do that. And of course, that was really pushed during the whole COVID thing. It was exploited. It was a nice crisis that the Democrats like to exploit.
Right. So again, like a lot of this has to do with power, has to do with control, has to do with the status quo. And when you mess with large status quo events, people don't like it. So, I mean, this is one of those things that's really kind of indefensible. However, you just know that Democrats aren't going to budge on it because they have 14 different reasons why they think it's unfair. I saw the senator from Alaska, Lisa Murkowski, who's a Republican, was coming to say, I'm not going to vote for it because it will affect some people in Alaska. Again, you can come up with whatever reason you want.
Right.
It's
called looking for the gnat, out of this whole big argument. So you got a couple situations that we might need to be sensitive to, but so why throw the monkey wrench and destroy the whole system? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
it's for me, it's a power play on kind of both ends. But again, like I feel like that's kind of where we're at. By reasoning, by discourse, I don't think we're getting anywhere.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Well, until you get some people who are primary the next time around, and as we saw, I think there's a lot of ground level frustration that's mounting over something as obvious as a simple thing like showing ID. This is not rocket science. Let's end with this. The acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who I like, he seems like a guy that gets things done. I like what I've seen so far. But the Republicans were grilling him regarding the president's abortion policy, and he brought out numerous times that this is the most pro-life president in history. Which at some level is true. We've seen him be very supportive, especially in his first term, more in his first term than his second term. But the issue is this abortion drug, mifepristone, which is through the Obama administration, the policies were relaxed regarding protection and distribution of this drug. And now it is leading to more abortions in America than we have ever had, because you can simply order it from the convenience of your home and have it delivered to your house. And I'm looking for the data here. I think it was on the other one. I'll have to look for it. But we're actually having a record number of abortions through this drug. And, of course, it has lots of side effects to it as well. Anyway, they're saying basically, hey, President Trump, if you're the most pro-life president in the history, why don't you just simply reverse this Biden policy change and go back to what the previous laws were, which protected women? The other thing that's especially disturbing to me is Alabama Senator Katie Britt, who we had the privilege of meeting last time we were out in D.C., told the story about a young lady who was impregnated by her boyfriend, who happened to be an Ohio medical resident. He used his ex-wife's identifying information to obtain abortion pills online, and he actually poisoned his girlfriend and her baby because he didn't want her to have the baby, so he murdered the baby without her even being a part of the process. This is happening more and more. There was a number of testimonies about that. And again, it's sick to me that we're at a place where the sanctity of life is so low, life is so cheap, that a man would actually do something as hideous as that to murder his own child. But, of course, we're dealing with it on both sides. It's not a male thing only. It's a man and women thing. But just this wholesale slaughter, betrayal of a pregnant mom and killing her child, killing your child in this hideous manner, which is just disgusting. So anyway, Trump can do something about it. Basically, the argument from the acting attorney general was that there are studies taking place right now between the DOJ, Health and Human Services, FDA, that they want to have the evidence to go in and show this is not some arbitrary thing. But it seems to me you could also reverse the policy and then do the studies and then go back if you're taken to court and show that this is not some arbitrary thing. So you brought up a point, and we've talked about this before. How pro-life do you think President Trump is?
I said before, I'm not convinced that pro-life is a conviction for Trump. It might be a talking point. It might be a policy point to get votes, to build alliances as part of the deal. I honestly don't know it's a conviction for him.
This is one of those, as we talked about, what's the word I'm looking for? On the left, this is like a sacred covenant article of their worship is a woman's right to abort her child at her wish all throughout 9 months of pregnancy. And so we saw what happened when Roe v. Wade fell.
It was a tsunami.
It was like a frenzy of just
energized the voters like crazy.
Yeah, and so if you're a purely political animal, I could see where this is a beehive, hornet's nest, so to speak. You do not want to kick leading up to midterm elections or whatever. So maybe there's a bit of political strategy behind it. I don't know. But I love what some of them have said, holding, like, I again love Josh Hawley and some others who have really challenged this administration to act on this and to quit dragging their feet. We'll see what happens. John Cornyn was another one. He said, I told them I expect that response before we vote on his nomination on the floor. So they're putting a little, that
pressure on
a little pressure on the administration to do something, because again, it's been kind of surprising to all of us who did see Trump as the most pro-life president in his last term, not maybe being as aggressive at all on these issues the second term. So again, it's time for us to open our mouths and pick up the phone and let our voices be heard, and encourage our leadership, even here in Indiana, to encourage the president to do the right thing. Because at the end of the day, these are not fundamentally political issues. These are moral and life issues that go so much deeper than whatever political cycle we're in. So anyway, lots going on. Anything that we forgot?
No, I think we covered a lot.
We covered a lot of ground.
Each of those things we can go so much into. But we covered a lot. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, it's been a great season here at Living Stones. I hope you guys have noticed we got a lot of dirt moving outside. Hopefully we'll see some more building activity, foundations being put in, and those types of things. Matthew and I will be out there covering it live right here from Crown Point, Indiana. I was a little bit disappointed. I came back from my trip this past week, and I wanted to get out and stand on the highest piece of ground in Northwest Indiana, which would have been the dirt pile on the northwest corner of our property. There was a giant tractor on there. They scraped all the topsoil out, and I was like, I need to get out there and say, we're broadcasting live today from the highest point in all of Northwest Indiana. Because I'm convinced we could have seen Chicago from the top of that. Anyway, but we will keep you abreast of all these exciting things that are happening here at Living Stones, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday.